See the form.
Hare Krishna and welcome to Bhagavatam for the Independently Thoughtful. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanasakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Jai. We have Rasalila Mataji also here today. So we are continuing the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. We finished text 28 and 29. Today we start with text 30.
Say what's going on. Okay, so here we are listening to our great guru, Sampradaya Guru Acharya, Narada Muni, is answering Maharaj Yudhishthira's doubts, because this is during the Rajasuya Yagya, and Krishna just killed Shishupala. And but everybody could see that Shishupala merged into the body of Krishna. In other words, it's a form of liberation, Sayuja Mukti. And Yudhishthira Maharaj asked Narada Muni, how is it possible? He was always so insulting, always so offensive. Even when he was a little baby who couldn't even speak properly, he was already insulting Krishna.
Exactly.
So then Narada Muni is explaining the value of absorption in Krishna in any form. Of course, Srila Prabhupada carefully in the purpose says that we shouldn't practice inimical behavior. We shouldn't practice inimical absorption.
Unfavorable.
Yes, but still Krishna is absolute. So even hating him intensely has got some good benefit.
Yeah, and we also finished the section theme on how Krishna is impartial. Although he may appear to be supporting demigods sometimes or supporting the demons sometimes, it's a matter of time, and Krishna controls time. Time doesn't control Krishna. So we are continuing here further. This is Narada Muni speaking. Is it? This verse is also Narada Muni. Kamad Veshad Bhayat Snehad Yatha Bhakteshvare Manaha Aveshya Tad Agam Hitva Bhavas Satim Gataha. Many persons have attained liberation simply by thinking of Krishna with great attention and giving up sinful activities. This great attention may be due to lusty desires, inimical feelings, fear, affection, or devotional service. I shall now explain how one receives Krishna's mercy simply by concentrating one's mind upon him. Purport. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-39, Vikriditam Braja Vadhubhiridam Cha Vishno Shraddhanvito Nushrunuyad Atha Varnayedya Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Kamam Hridrogam Asvapan Apahinotyache Acharena Dhiraha. Sorry. If a bona fide listener hears of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, which seem to be lusty affairs, the lusty desires in his heart, which constitute the heart disease of the conditioned soul, will be vanquished, and he will become a most exalted devotee of the Lord. If one who hears of the gopis' lusty behavior with Krishna becomes free from lusty desires, certainly the gopis who approached Krishna became free from all such desires. Similarly, Shishupala and others who were very much envious of Krishna and who constantly thought of Krishna became free from envy. Wow, what a powerful analogy. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness because of affection. When the mind is somehow or other fully absorbed in Krishna, the material part is very soon vanquished, and the spiritual part, attraction to Krishna, becomes manifest. This indirectly confirms that if one thinks of Krishna enviously, simply because of thinking of Krishna, he becomes free from all sinful reactions and thus becomes a pure devotee. Examples of this are given in the following verse. I just want to make a comment here about sometimes we wonder, oh, am I qualified to give class? Am I qualified to do this service? But trust me, personal experience and words of the acharyas, the very service will purify us and qualify us. And the very absorption of studying the scriptures and learning, it makes us so purified that we become more and more attached to Krishna. Instead, if we keep thinking, I am not qualified, and we just sit in a corner and we don't want to take up the service, and we think, oh, somebody else can do better than me. I always have this thing. Sometimes I think somebody else can always do better than me. And Kante Prabhu always tells me, there is the Kurma Prabhu, the cook, who's the best cook, right? But then you have to cook at home. You need to cook for your deities at home. So we must perform the service that is given to us, because that is our saving grace. Like, I often feel I'm qualified to give classes, but that's my saving grace. My mentor always told me, do it because there's no other way that you're going to get purified. So do it because that's your way for salvation. That's your way that's going to save you from nonsense. And at least that 1 hour I'm talking Bhagavatam, I'm not doing nonsense, right? So that's the way of Krishna consciousness. And the more we study about Krishna, we become more attracted. And just now when we were speaking about the gopis, like, you see, look at the connection here. This purport is talking about the gopis, and we're just coming from the class on gopis feelings for Krishna. And when we listen to it, when we think about it, when we research about it, the emotions change, it shifts from trivial things. Our mind starts focusing on, wow, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took the mood of Radharani. Let me understand more. No, the mind goes there. If we're not in the class, if we're not in the Sangha, then our mind will go somewhere else. If we don't complicate for Krishna, the mind will complicate to solve problems materially. And then we entangle ourselves more and more trying to feed ourselves like this. So better to eat nicely. You want to comment something about this purport? Okay, we'll go to the next verse. If anybody has any questions, you can just raise your hand or you can comment in the chat box. Gopya kamad bhayat kamsho veshachaddyayo nrupa sambandhad vrishnaya snehat yuyam bhaktya vayam vibho. My dear King Yudhishthir, the gopis, by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupala and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Upward. Different persons achieve different types of mukti, sayujya, salokya, sarupya, samipya, and shasti, according to their own intense desire, which is called bhava. Thus, it is described here that the gopis, by their lusty desires, which were based upon their intense love for Krishna, became the most beloved devotees of the Lord. Although the gopis at Vrindavan expressed their lusty desires in relationship with the paramour Parakiya Rasa, they actually had no lusty desires. This is significant of spiritual advancement. Their desires appeared lusty, but actually they were not the lusty desires of the material world. Chaitanya Charitamrita compares the desires of the spiritual and material world to gold and iron. Both gold and iron are metal, but there is a vast difference in their value. The lusty desires of the gopis for Krishna are compared to gold, and material lusty desires are compared to iron. Pause. I wanted to mention that Prabhupada also mentions in context with Kubja. Kubja, her love and affection for Krishna is compared to iron, whereas the love of the gopis towards Krishna is compared to gold. Kamsa and other enemies of Krishna merged into the existence of Brahman. But why should Krishna's friends and devotees have the same position? Krishna's devotees attained the association of the Lord as his constant companions, either in Vrindavan or in the Vaikuntha planets. Similarly, although Narada Muni wanders in the three worlds, he has exalted devotion for Narayan, Aishwaryaman, Vrishnis and Yadus and the father and mother of Krishna in Vrindavan all have familial relationship with Krishna. Krishna's foster father and mother in Vrindavan, however, are more exalted than Vasudeva and Devaki. Want to comment?
Well, this is an important and famous verse, and the purport is very graphic, very didactic. While the absorption may be common, but the nature, the caliber, the quality obviously makes a difference. So yes, they might get liberation, all but different types of liberation, different levels of intimacy with Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada stresses, even Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda they're higher than Vasudeva and Devaki. So these are both couples are very, very exalted. So Krishna is their son, but comparatively, in terms of intensity of the love, one is higher than others.
So the question I have is, both were Vatsalya Rasa, right? Devaki and Vasudeva and Yashoda and Nanda is both Vatsalya Rasa. So even within each Rasa, the intensity is...
Of course, I mean, the nectar of devotion is plain. Vatsalya Rasa is not only the parents, but also the guru, like Sandipadi Muni, or the Jarati, the, what do you call nurse of Krishna. Kumti Devi is also Vatsalya Rasa. She's the auntie of Krishna. So Vatsalya Rasa, like any rasa, has got different divisions. These are very, very broad, only 5. I mean, there are unlimited devotees. And to fit all of them in 4 or 5, obviously there must be a number, many numbers of subcategories. Like, for instance, in Vrindavan, the children, the sakhas, the friends, some are superior to Krishna, so they are more protective, some are equal, some are juniors, so are more in the service mood. So yes, within each rasa, there are many subdivisions.
So I was thinking in connection with Gaura Leela, there are certain devotees who came and participated in Gaura Leela, right? Even like Ramananda Rai, and there are specific devotees who came, and then on the other level of rasa, which is like Brahma came as Haridas Thakur. So what is the connection? Like, how does the rasa transfer in Chaitanya Leela? Obviously, between Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya or Swarup Damodar or Ramananda Rai is not conjugal. So how do I understand the rasa aspects? Isn't it supposed to be eternal? Like our rasa with Krishna is Sakya rasa is, because this is more Sakya, right?
What? Which one?
When Mahaprabhu communicates Hey Sakhi to Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar, and he's addressing them as Lalita and Vishaka, and he's basically saying the same thing that he's in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 47th chapter, the Brahmara Gita. The same emotions are expressed by Mahaprabhu, but how does it work?
See, the fundamental difference is that Lord Chaitanya came to experience the gopi, or specifically Srimati Radharani's mood. So, in fact, the acharyas have explained that to see the Lord Chaitanya as the enjoyer, it's a form of apasampradaya, it's a form of devotion. It's called the Gauranga Nagaris. There's a whole group of pseudo-Gaudiyas who are worshipping Lord Chaitanya as the enjoyer of the gopis, but he wants to be a gopi. So basically they're disturbing the ecstasy.
Mm.
So obviously, Krishna, when he appeared as a prince, he had his queens, and in Vrindavan he had these gopis, and so on. Now, Mahaprabhu, he manifested as a sannyasi, so he didn't do all things like, Rasa Leela. So he expressed his ecstasy or his ambition to enjoy that rasa as a sannyasi. So his enjoyment or his absorption was through Shravana Kirtan, not on Rasa Leela and many other Leelas, not as a performer of the Leela. So everybody else came and participated and assisted, contributed in that mood. So Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Charya Prabhu, so they were, even they are themselves, Vishnu Tattva is explained, Advaita Charya is Mahavishnu himself, but still he comes and his mood is overwhelmingly in Dasya Rasa. He feels to be the servant of the Lord Chaitanya. Nityananda, there is more fraternal, Sakya, more like peer type of mood. So each one obviously will have its own mood. But even those who were gopis, were feminine in Krishna Lila, like say Jagadananda Pandit, it manifests that through an intense love, but of a devotee or a practicing devotee to a sannyasi.
Amazing. It's amazing, yeah. If anybody has any question, you can unmute or comments, yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. 32 or 31? 32. Katamopi na vena syat panchama purusha prati tasmat kenya upayena mana krishne niveshayet. Somehow or other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then, by one of the 5 different processes mentioned above, one can return home back to Godhead. Atheists like King Vena, however, being unable to think of Krishna's form in any of these 5 ways, cannot attain salvation. Therefore, one must somehow think of Krishna, whether in a friendly way or inimically. Okay, I want to pause. Snehavati Gandharvika, this point is very relevant about why Vena was sent to hell, but Shishupala actually merged into the body of Krishna, because Vena, he didn't have any feeling for Krishna at all. But whereas Shishupala had such intense feelings for Krishna, although it was inimical. So the feeling for Krishna, whether it's romantic, whether it's Vatsalya, whether it's as an enemy, as a fighter, it's much more valuable than being neutral. Like Kante Prabhu said yesterday about somebody, a family member who has no feeling, like no interest in Krishna consciousness, no hatred. Those people never kind of get into the into the mood, I guess. I think that's also the relevance of personalism. Impersonalists are very much about, don't care about Krishna.
So all the purport is about this.
They don't hate Krishna, they don't love Krishna. Okay, purport. Impersonalists and atheists always try to circumvent the form of Krishna. Great politicians and philosophers of the modern age even try to banish Krishna from Bhagavad Gita. Oh my God, it's so true. Consequently, for them, there is no salvation. But Krishna's enemies think, here is Krishna, my enemy. I have to kill him. They think of Krishna in his actual form, and thus they attain salvation. Devotees, therefore, who constantly think of Krishna's form are certainly liberated. The only business of the Mayavadi atheists is to make Krishna formless. And consequently, because of this severe offense at the lotus feet of Krishna, they cannot expect salvation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this connection, Tene Shishupaladi Binna Pratikula Bhavam Didishur Yena Iva Narakam Ya Titi Bhavaha. Except for Shishupala, those who go against the regulative principles cannot attain salvation and are surely destined for hellish life. The regulative principle is that one must always think of Krishna, whether as a friend or enemy. Any comments?
Yes, I mean, it's very, very important philosophically how Srila Prabhupada shows how the Mayavadis are also enemies of Krishna. They even try to take him out of the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna said, Mama Naba, think of me. And some Mayavadi says, you should think of the unborn within Krishna. So even when Krishna said, think of me, they say, no, it's not to Krishna that you have to think. You have to think of something else, something formless, something that is using Krishna as a spokesperson, which is absurd because something impersonal can't use anything as a spokesperson. Now, some devotees, especially those who are by nature not inclined to conflict, they try the best to avoid conflict, and they hear this very, very strong words of the acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, or say Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur says one who doesn't know Nityananda is an animal. Say Pashu Boro Dhurachar is a miscreant. Now, of course, this should be tempered with understanding that even if they indirectly offer obeisances, respect, they do some advancement. But still, sometimes there are these very, very strong statements. Like a few days ago, I remember I posted on Facebook a quote by Srila Prabhupada, which he says, Mayavadi sannyasis and caste brahmanas, they're all enemies. And there was a devotee, he said he was a young devotee, but he said, oh, why talk like this about enemies? We're trying to develop devotion like that. And this was in a group, it's called Progressive Vaishnavism. And I explained to him that, he said we should be inclusive. That was his point. We should be inclusive. And I explained, Prabhu, you need to work on your definition of inclusiveness. Because if you want to have progressive Vaishnavism, you also have to prevent the regressive Vaishnavism from influencing. What to speak of the direct enemies of Krishna. So the idea is that the spiritual life, one doesn't criticize anyone, doesn't point out anybody's fault. It's just false. It's just a result of the Mayavadi idea. In fact, even some of the people, when Srila Prabhupada spoke in, say, Pandal and got into the debates, got disturbed because they had this idea, strange idea, wrong idea, artificial idea, that the sadhu is never upset. The sadhu is never inimical to everybody. But the sadhu is the representative of Krishna. Krishna has many enemies. Some are historical enemies, Shishupal, Jarasandha, Kamsa, and so on. These are historical enemies. And some are subtle enemies, philosophical enemies, who try to not only minimize, they try to evaporate Krishna from the scriptures, even from his own book. So, should be done in the proper tact, we should be done in the proper way, but the devotees are pointing out that Krishna and the Krishna consciousness movement has many enemies. And for that, there is no need, there is no point of inclusivity. Just like in your body, you want to keep the body healthy, you don't want to be inclusive to all the viruses or to all the diseases, or to cancer and diabetes. You don't feel, oh, I need to be inclusive. Let's keep this cancer going. Let's keep the diabetes off the charts. No, certain things need to be removed.
The analogy is very relevant. Matra svashrayo vaschaidyo dantavakrascha pandava parshada pravarao vishnor viprashapta viprashapat padachyutao. Narad Muni continued, O best of the Pandavas, your two cousins, Shishupala and Dantavakra, the sons of your maternal aunt, were formerly associates of Lord Vishnu. But because they were cursed by Brahmanas, they fell from Vaikuntha to this material world. Purport. Shishupala and Dantavakra were not ordinary demons, but were formerly personal associates of Lord Vishnu. They apparently fell to this material world, but actually they came to assist the personality of Godhead by nourishing his pastimes within this world. I have a question. How can they be nourishing his pastimes? Oh, you mean they are nourishing Krishna's leelas? No, but they're not nourished by it.
Well, they get liberated, they get some sort of, they get reinstated.
Oh, okay, then they are nourished. Because I thought they don't know that they are.
Yeah, in other words, they came
Not
to
consciously
enhance.
nourishing him.
They came, I mean, they're definitely enhancing. I mean, so many chapters of the Bhagavatam are dedicated to Hiranyakashipu, to Nishingadeva, or to others, other fightings that Krishna has with Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu and Shishupal, Dantavakra. So definitely they become some sort of protagonists in the villains. No, it's like in a drama, there are villains. So these are the villains in Krishna's Leela.
But why does, sorry, I have a question. Why does Krishna, why does he need to do these things?
Doesn't need, Krishna doesn't need to do anything, but it's just his nature. Ananda Mahaya Bhyasat. His nature, the nature of the Supreme Brahman, is to express his joy, his happiness in many other ways. Like there was some Vaishnava who wrote, well, it's just like a child, it lives there peacefully and it starts playing. But I think it was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur who says, no, this is not a great analogy because the child's playing with toys is also based on desire. In other words, he has this drive of playing with different toys. So he said it's more like a king who is happy, powerful, and perfect, materially perfect, and he gets up in the morning and he just starts singing out of enthusiasm for his being. So it's not really a desire to attain anything like the child wants to attain by playing. It's more like a king who gets up in the morning and starts singing just out of his happiness. So Krishna is happy, and it just expresses his happening in many leelas. So this is another expression. At the same time, like Nectar of Devotion explains, Krishna is expert. Expert meaning he achieves different purposes through the same activity. So by killing Hiranyakashipu, he frees them with that body, at least that section of that lila. He frees Hiranyakashipu, he puts Prahlad as a king. So there are also political and geopolitical consequences. And then, he reestablished the Devatas, he destroys the demons, he makes Prahlad happy, and so on. So, and of course, he establishes leelas that we, after so many millions of years, we are still studying and we are still trying to understand, and they're still purifying us. So Krishna by nature is so kind of multi-purpose. Whatever he does, he has many cascading effects on many different levels. So yeah, so yes, there was this issue in Vaikuntha, like we saw in the third canto, with this Jayan Vijay that stopped the Kumaras, and he takes responsibility. Lord Narayan takes responsibility. I'm sorry if they offended you. At the same time, he upholds the decisions of the Jaya Vijay, so that he doesn't let the Kumaras in. They don't let the Kumara, he doesn't let the Kumara in. But, they wanted to see his lotus feet, so okay, lotus feet, here they are. And then they become super devotees, so the Kumaras. And then the Bhagavatam explains that Vajra and Vijay at one point they had disturbed the mind of Lakshmi Devi, because Lakshmi Devi wanted to see Narayana, but he was resting, so she was stopped. So there are
Many reasons.
Many layers of causes. And therefore we will see, this is very important. Now Narada Muni gives this revelation. Your cousins, because remember, these were all, these are
Family.
Kshatriya, they're family connected. So your cousins, Shishuppa and Dantavakra, they were not just the king of Chedi and so on, but they were Jaya and Vijaya. And you will see now coming up how Maharaj Yudhishthira was so surprised to hear that, because if they were in the spiritual world, how they could come down in the material world. So there's a lot of churning to be done.
I just wanted to quote one Sanskrit. Madhvacharya composed this, what you just said about why Krishna creates these situations, why he comes into this world, and why he has to fight these demons, or why he needs to do. He can just like that sort it. But the different layers, this is like the song. Srishti samhara leela vilasattatam shadpushtashat gunya sad vigrahollasinam dushtanishesha karmodhyatar samstitam shishta praja samshrayam prinayamo vasudevam Devata mandala kanda mandanam prinayamo vasudevam. Prinayamo vasudevam means Krishna, I love you. Vasudeva, I love you. That's the simple translation. And Madhvacharya sings this saying, what Prabhu was saying, in order to maintain the universal laws, in order to punish those demoniac people and correct the demoniac tendencies in the jivas who have fallen into this world, and to glorify the devotees. This is my favorite, actually. Even like, for example, gopis, we may ask, why the best of the best devotees is gopis? Why Krishna left them? Why he's making them suffer? Why he's putting them in misery? But our acharyas explain, Madhvacharya says, no, he's not putting them in misery. He's only making their glories even more glorified. Same thing with Prabhupada. Why Krishna let Prabhupada go through so much struggles? No, he didn't let them go through struggles. For the gopis, that suffering was their greatest joy. And for Prabhupada to do all the austerities, was his greatest joy. Like that. Rasalila Mataji, maybe Kantarani Mataji, would you like to maybe translate for her? Sorry. Yes, Ekantarani, go ahead, please.
Yes, sorry. I didn't see Mataji Rasalila. Should I translate the last thing?
Yeah.
The last part?
Private, or how you want to do it?
I don't know.
Ask if they can do it in private.
Can you maybe have a call with her on Telegram and translate while simultaneously?
No problem. I hear English and read commentary.
Okay.
I have and look. Thank you.
I will send you this song by Telegram personally to you. It's so beautiful. I will send you. It's one of my favorite. So my favorite part of that song is where Madhvacharya says he's Shishta, means that great devotees. His purpose is to glorify those devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, Parikshit. So it's not only about I am me, great, me, Supreme Personality of Godhead. He wants to glorify Arjuna. He wants to glorify other devotees. Okay, let's go ahead. Ekantarani, you have a question?
Yes, if possible, if I can ask a question about the sufferings that we say that why Krishna put gopis into the mood of, like, why he made gopis suffer by leaving them. And well, of course, I think of it from the material point of view, because, well, the spiritual feelings are not available for me. But yes, I'm trying to comprehend. You just said, and Prabhupada also writes in his purports, that it wasn't the sufferings, but it was their, like, kind of joy, as you mentioned, or happiness. But really, it's really hard to comprehend from the material point of view how these sufferings, because, well, you can compare their sufferings with the sufferings of separation and your sufferings that maybe you previously experienced in separation. And you think, like, well, how is that possible that these sufferings can be enjoyed, or they can be actually joy or happiness? You know, like incompatible things. Like, you can't believe that it's really true. And well, my question is, like, how can that be? Or if it's maybe not possible to explain or to comprehend it on the material platform.
Yeah. In fact, your question is so important, so relevant, and very, very deep. To figure out the answer is why Mahaprabhu took the mood of Radharani, because he also wanted to understand how is it possible to actually experience such levels of depth in such pain. So this is a whole tattva, this is a whole Achintya Bheda Abheda tattva of understanding the simultaneously it's painful, but it's also joyful. How is it possible? You know, it's simultaneously intense emotions of separation. How can it be positive or pleasurable, right? Because our conception of suffering and happiness is based on our, like, limitations. There is actually this quote by Prabhupada also. Anyway, I'll bring it up maybe another time, but very quick answer would be the perspective with which we see pain. Like Kunti Devi, she wanted more pain and less pleasure, because she experienced that when there is more pain, more struggles, then we think more of Krishna. And thinking of Krishna may not be materially pleasurable, but it gives you another level of transcendental connection to the Lord, which is beyond material pleasure. So when we have a higher taste, we don't go for chips, you know, there's potato chips. We may like it, but when you have a super feast of Radha Madhava cooked by Rasalila Mataji, she makes these cookies for Radha Madhava. After you may eat something super high class, you're not going to be attracted anymore for a packaged cookies or chips or something, right? Although on a mundane level, it may look nice, shiny cover, but when you have an taste of something higher, those things become insignificant. So Kunti Devi, we are not qualified to pray like Kunti Devi, because she prays Vipadata Santu Shashwat. She says, may calamities happen again and again so that you will come again and again. We can think of you again and again. And yes, as much as it's true that the more suffering and less pleasure in our life, it will enhance our bhakti and we will progress towards perfection. In our life, if it was truly were meant to happen, I mean, as long as my hands are working, my head is working, my eye is working, my leg is working, I'm able to chant, do class, go to temple, whatever, right? Imagine one little finger goes, that's it. That pain of one finger causing me problem, or whatever it is, one relationship, one friendship I lose, or one job that I lose, or one lack that I lose, whatever, it causes us so much pain that we forget Krishna. So that's why we are not qualified to pray like Kunti Maharani. You know, we must take care of our body, take care of our mind, be fixed on our sadhana. And so it's a different level of reality, of experiencing emotions of ecstasy, ecstatic love for Krishna. If you have been in love, I'm just saying this is hypothetical, okay? If you've been in love, you know that the pleasure of being in love is only that much. But actually, the whole pain of the separation and wanting that person to also reciprocate, especially if you're in a non-reciprocal love, like you're in love with somebody and that person doesn't love you. When you're in that kind of a relationship, the intensity of that emotion is very little about the pleasure itself. So even in this world, we can experience that when you're in love with somebody and you want that person to look at you want that person to smile, you want that person to notice you or recognize you, or you do service for them, there is a lot of pain there. But the intensity of love is so, I don't think the word is pleasurable. That's why we call it transcendental. It's beyond pain and pleasure. It's an emotion of love. Love is beyond pain and pleasure. Okay, that's my understanding. Would you like to answer that question about, do you have any?
No, because that was your point, that pleasure is, that pain is pleasure. So
I mean, my point was the greatest suffering of separation from Krishna becomes their greatest source of joy, because when Uddhava comes and then they say, have you come, like Akrura took away Krishna, have you come here to take away our memories of Krishna? So they don't want to lose the memories. There is pain in that separation, but they don't want to lose it. They want it because there is so much depth in it. There is love in it. There's devotion in
see,
it.
there are two types. You're talking about pain of separation. It means like an intense longing. And it's explained as a form of pleasure because it's
Vipralamba Agni. Yeah.
so. At the same time, I think the question also concerned like Srila Prabhupada's suffering, taking a material body, taking the karma of his disciples, and experiencing all sorts of unpleasantries, like in his diary, in the Jaladuta, it said seasickness, vomiting. So I don't see we can interpret that as enjoyment in the literal sense. So I'm sure he was internally connected very deeply with the spiritual master. And so in one sense, yes, of course, he was satisfied to be doing whatever he could in the mission of the spiritual master, but the body of the pure devotee is also a target of all this type of miseries. And there is no indication that it was just a show or a stage performance. So yeah, I mean, now you brought it to the transcendental aspect of the pain of separation. That's certainly, yeah, that I agree with that. It can be a form of ecstasy.
There is one quote. I want to show this. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, text 19. Sorry, 19 chapter, text 34. And that, very, very, very relevant. I'm showing it 1 second. Okay. Fourth Canto, 19 chapter, text 34. So powerful. So here, Prabhupada says, this paragraph here. Sometimes the saintly or very religious person also has to meet with reversals in life. Such incidents should be taken as providential. What is providential?
Providential means, what is that?
Providential.
It's arranged by the providence.
Okay, like
divine,
okay,
divine origin.
Although there may be sufficient cause for being unhappy, one should avoid counteracting such reversals. For the more we become implicated in rectifying such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest regions of material anxiety. Lord Krishna has also advised us in this connection. We should tolerate things instead of becoming agitated. Yeah, usually when we see somebody going through difficulty, we say, oh, they did so much devotional service, but still Krishna put them in that difficulty. But the great devotees, they don't see like that. Kunti or Srila Prabhupada, they don't see the difficulty. That's why Krishna doesn't give us such kind of difficulties. He only gives us as much as we can handle. And even for that, we are freaking out. But the great devotees don't freak out. The great devotees are like, oh, this is Krishna's arrangement. There is something. We usually freak out. Yeah, that's the right word, freaking out. Okay. Next verse. Shri Yudhishthira Uvacha Kidrisha Kashyava Shapo Haridasa Bhimarshana Ashraddheya Iva Bhati Harere Kantinam Bhava. Ekantarani Ekantinam. This is nice. Okay. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, what kind of great curse could affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktas? And what sort of person could curse even the Lord's associates? For unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to this material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. In Bhagavad Gita 8:16, the Lord clearly states, Mam upetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. One who is purified of material contamination and returns home back to Godhead does not return to this material world. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. O Arjuna, Maharaj Yudhishthira, therefore, was surprised that a pure devotee could return to this material world. This is certainly a very important question. Yes, Ekantarani?
May I ask this question about verse actually 4:9 from Bhagavad Gita, about this one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. Actually, when I was learning it, I was reading it several times. I have this question which I still don't have an answer for. What does it mean to know the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance and disappearance in his activities, to be able to, upon leaving the body, to attain his abode? What does it mean? Does it mean to know, to listen, to hear many times, to learn by heart? I don't know. What does it mean to know his transcendental pastimes? Does it mean that all devotees who serve in this life, upon leaving their bodies, they will attain the spiritual world? Because all devotees listen to pastimes of the Lord. All devotees, they know, they heard many times about the transcendental appearance and transcendental activities of the Lord. Does it mean that all devotees attain the supreme goal, that they attain the spiritual world? I always think about this. What does it mean to know the transcendental nature, to make sure that you attain the highest goal of life?
Good question.
My understanding by reading Srila Prabhupada explanation is that it simply means that, to fully accept. Of course, it's like what does it mean to know? What does it mean to understand? I'll give an example. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Mam Abhijanati. He says the only through the bhakti one can understand him. And he doesn't say just janati, abhijanati, like it's a reinforcing element, means completely understand. Now, to what degree? I don't have to, like, okay, 100%, 70%, 50%, 30%. My understanding by listening to what Srila Prabhupada explains is that, yeah, once who are fully accepts that, yeah, Krishna is not a human being. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He comes not because of the force of time. It doesn't come under the control of karma. It does not come under the control of the guna. It's completely free. It remains free. It remains in charge of Prakriti. And all his pastimes are completely devoid of contaminations. yes, once who understands that, then yes, it's a bona fide candidate for liberation. Now, if one understands that, he or she will show that they understood by becoming a devotee. And of course, becoming a devotee means accepting a guru, and accepting a guru means following instructions. That means chanting in rounds and following principles. So there is the whole culture attached to that understanding. It's like I remember once it was a Sunday program or something in Italy, and there was a guest, and he says, I believe in Buddhism, but I don't practice Buddhism. So I said, what does it mean to believe in Buddhism if you don't practice? It means like actually you don't believe in Buddhism, because what does it mean if you have just like a very light superficial appreciation of Buddha is very cool, yeah, detachment, yeah, peace. Okay, so yeah, I like Buddhism, but I don't practice. I don't do anything. Any meditation, any discipline, any reading, so any ritual. I don't do anything. So is really that a belief, or it's simply a very, very superficial appreciation? So yeah, understanding there may be different levels, but that's the meaning, and that's what we are actually reading, that Krishna is so powerful. Krishna is so powerful that to just understand that it's transcendental to material nature it's a very, very powerful thing. And yeah, in fact, Srila Prabhupada says in the third canto, even a Kanishta Adhikari becomes imperceptibly liberated. You may see this Kanishta Adhikari, meaning, okay, a normal devotee, young devotee coming to the temple, a normal grihastha, normal devotee coming to the temple. You may say, okay, he just comes to the temple, is a Kanishta kind of devotee, maybe he's not a preacher, is nothing like that. But Srila Prabhupada says that even a Kanishta Adhikari, it becomes imperceptibly liberated. So for bhakti, this liberation is really not a big deal. Because there's such a power in Krishna, in the holy name, in the practice of bhakti, in the deities, that even a Kanishta Adhikari becomes liberated, although it may not fully function on a Madhya or Uttama level. What I suggest, if you have time, while you were talking, I was searching in Vanipedia, this Janma Karma Chame Divyam 4.9, Srila Prabhupada quotes it 268 times. That means it's one of the verses mostly he preached on. So maybe you can take a look at those quotes and see how Srila Prabhupada explains it. But to give you an answer, yes, my understanding, yes. Somebody who truly understands that, yeah, is liberated. It's not a big deal. Krishna says that, the Acharya says that, and we should accept that.
You know, one very relevant story, small story this morning in our Bhagavatam class, it came up, and one of our friends was sharing. Ramanujacharya one time knew one devotee, he could see Krishna dancing, like he could see Krishna, call Krishna and say dance, and Krishna will dance. This devotee was able to. So then Ramanujacharya told this devotee, please go and ask Krishna, when will I get liberated? When will I get liberated? And this devotee went, and then he called Krishna, and then Krishna came, danced for him, and then he asked Krishna, when will Ramanujacharya get liberated? And then Krishna said, oh, he's going to get liberated this life only. He'll get liberated this life itself. Then he went back and he told Ramanujacharya, oh, Krishna said that you're going to get liberated this life itself, Ramanujacharya said, no, I didn't ask about me. I said, go and ask him when you are going to get liberated. When is your liberation? And then the devotee went and asked the dancing Krishna. He said, Krishna, no, I want to know when I'm going to get liberated. And Krishna said, oh, many more lifetimes you have. You're not going to get liberated anytime soon. The devotee was shocked because he was able to see Krishna, and yet he could not get liberated. So I think what Kanche Prabhu was also mentioning is that no, one thing is to call the Lord or be able to see. There are many mystic people who can get this kind of shaktis and all. But to be a pure devotee is to have that devotion, that love, that madness that the gopis had. Ramanujacharya was told, don't give this mantra to anybody. Everybody, this is liberation mantra. Immediately he went up on the hill and started screaming the mantra because he said, I want everybody to get liberated. But the Guru had told him, if you give the mantra, you will go to hell. And he said, yeah, even if I go to hell, if everybody can go get liberated, it's worth it. I'm going to. So the same with gopis. When Krishna had a headache, everybody was like, no, I can't give my food dust. No, I can't. It'll be sin. It will be that. It will be this. Right? So Janma Karma Chame Divyam is not only, oh Krishna, Hare Krishna, Jai Nitya Gaur Premanande, all that is one element. But the actual element is, are you really ready to do anything for Krishna? So I think the understanding is to go to an extent of, I will do anything if Krishna wants. I want my life to be aligned to Krishna's will. I think that is the subtle difference between knowing or seeing Krishna and then being a devotee. And you're liberated because you're immediately liberated. You don't even need anything. Like my husband the other day, I said, what can I give Radhanath Swami? I want to give him something, but he has everything. And Kantiya Prabhu said, no, he doesn't have anything, but he doesn't need anything. That's liberation. Yes, Rasalila Mataji.
Спасибо большое, что вы позволяете слушать. Английский я таким учусь образом.
Thank you so much for letting me listen to your classes. In this way, I'm able to learn English.
И правильно ли я понимаю, что Гандарани спросила о том, что как понять рождение и деяние Господа, как это понять 4.9, да?
And did I understand correctly that Ekantarani asked about how to understand the birth and the activities of the Lord, how to understand them correctly? Mataji Rasalila is asking if she does she understand correctly.
У тебя спрашивают, этот вопрос был?
So she's asking me, sorry. Да, я этот вопрос спрашивала, да.
Я просто захотела поделиться реализацией Бхактивьяна Госвами. То, что он говорил, как он отвечал на этот вопрос.
Mataji Rasalila would like to share Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj's realizations, how he understands this question.
И он сказал, что на самом деле, когда мы, изучая игры Господа в этом материальном мире, видим, как, приходя в этот мир, Он служит всем другим живым существам, тогда мы, ну ты теперь иди частями.
So Bhaktivinoda Goswami Maharaj says that when we study, when we read his Leelas and we observe how when he ascends in this world and how he serves to all other living entities,
тогда мы, наше понимание, наши игры Господа, тогда мы начинаем служить другим живым существам, как Кришна.
Then we start to serve other living entities in the same way as Krishna served all living entities.
И наше служение — это санкиртана, когда мы других связываем с Кришной и привлекаем их к преданному служению. И это панчитатва, это лила Господа Чайтаньи Нитьянанды и все тричтатвы.
And our service is Sankirtana, is to attract others to the service of the Lord, to attract others. And this is how Panchatattva, like it's their mood, the mood of Nityananda and Mahaprabhu's mood.
И это настоящий танец раса в современном мире.
And in the modern world, this is the real rasa dance. Sankirtana is the real rasa dance in the modern world.
Thank you. Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Spasiba Vasho. Thank you very much. Very, very relevant. Very relevant.
Это очень актуально. Спасибо большое. Очень в тему.
You're happy, Ekantarani? You got some clues.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all your answers, Mataji Rasalila and Radha Govinda Mataji. And Prabhu, thank you so much for all your answers. Thank you.
Now, my understanding of this verse has completely changed. I see this verse in a different context. Thank you.
So we continue.
Yeah. Dehendriyashu hinanam vaikunta puravashinam deha sambandha sambhaddam etad akyayatum arhasi. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikunta are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses, or life air. Therefore, kindly explain how associates of the personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in the material bodies like ordinary persons. Purport. This very significant question would be difficult for an ordinary person to answer, but Narad Muni, being an authority, could answer it. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhishthir inquired from him, saying, Etad akyatum arhasi, only you can explain the reason. From authoritative sources, it can be discerned that associates of Lord Vishnu who descend from Vaikunta do not actually fall. They come with the purpose of fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and their descent to this material world is comparable to that of the Lord. The Lord comes to this material world through the agency of his internal potency. And similarly, when a devotee or associate of the devotee descends to this material world, associate of the Lord descends to this material world, he does so through the action of the spiritual energy. Any pastime conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an arrangement by Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya. Therefore, it is to be understood that when Jaya and Vijaya descended to this material world, they came because there was something to be done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. Of course, a living entity who desires Sayujya Mukti remains in Krishna's Brahman effulgence, which is dependent on Krishna's body. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Such an impersonalist who takes shelter of the Brahman effulgence must surely fall down. This is stated in the Shastra, Bhagavatam 10:32. Yanyaravindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhavad avishuddha buddhaya aruhya kritrena param padam tata patantyadho nadrita yasmad angrayaha. Sorry. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated, but who have no devotion, is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penance and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into material existence, for they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. The impersonalists cannot reach the Vaikuntha planets to become associates of the Lord, and therefore, according to their desires, Krishna gives them Sayujya Mukti. However, since Sayujya Mukti is partial Mukti, they must fall again to this material world. When it is said that the individual soul falls from Brahmaloka, this applies to the impersonalists. From authoritative sources, it is learned that Jaya and Vijaya were sent to this material world to fulfill the Lord's desire to fight. The Lord also sometimes wants to fight. But who can fight with the Lord? But a very confidential devotee of the Lord. Jaya and Vijaya descended to this world to fulfill the Lord's desire. Therefore, in each of the three births, first as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, second as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and third as Shishupala and Dantavakra, the Lord personally killed them. In other words, these associates of Lord Jaya and Vijaya descended to the material world to serve the Lord by fulfilling his desire to fight. Otherwise, as Maharaj Yudhishthir says, Ashraddheya iva bhati, the statement that a servant of the Lord could fall from Vaikuntha seems unbelievable. How Jaya and Vijaya came to this material world is explained by Narad Muni as follows. Any comments?
Yes, plenty of comments. See here, I mean, if you have been in ISKCON for any amount of time, even 15 days, you must have heard questions about the so-called origin of the jiva. Of course, the jiva doesn't have any origin, but how the jiva end up in the material world. Now, this is one of the two purposes in which very clearly Srila Prabhupada says that nobody falls from Vaikuntha. That's why Yudhishthira Maharaj is so surprised. I mean, this is Yudhishthira Maharaj, is Yamaraj himself, is Dharmaraj, he's an associate of Krishna, and he's a yogi, grew up as a yogi, besides being, of course, son of Yamaraj, grew up as a yogi in the Himalayas, and he has access to Vyasadeva, all the sages, Vyasadeva, who wrote the book that we are reading right now. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, you may say, well, he's a Kshatriya, yeah, but he has, first of all, he has a very, very, very high level of dharmic understanding and practice. So let's not think, oh, Yudhishthira Maharaj didn't know. No, he knew the philosophy very, very well. That's why I use this expression. He has used this expression that it's unbelievable. In the previous, he used this expression, ashraddhe vabhati. It's unbelievable. It's hard to have a shraddha in this concept that this associate of the Lord comes to the material world. That's his words. And because it's just almost like an ontological impossibility. There are these Vaikuntha planets. Jiva Goswami calls them, part of the aspects is that it's a place of no fall down. Nobody falls down from the Vaikuntha planet. And Srila Prabhupada here very clearly says at the end of the first paragraph, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. And here we see Jaya Vijaya is not a fall, it's not a normal fall. In fact, Srila Prabhupada used the word apparently fallen. There is a desire of the Lord to fight. He wants to fight with devotees. Just like if you want to play, say, tennis or football, you want to play with your friends. You don't want to play with people you don't like. So similarly, the Lord has this arrangement and he brings his devotees as great demons and he fights with them. And this is a very special situation. They don't become worms in the stool. They don't become dogs. They don't become cats. They don't become snakes. They become great personalities who are always absorbed in Krishna. Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, Dantavakra, they were even part of the family of Krishna. So they have this connection. So they don't become mosquitoes in Botswana, in Africa. So this is what the philosophy is. Sometimes devotees find, my observations, sometimes devotees find difficulties in accepting these statements by Srila Prabhupada, but sometimes it's very clear. Here is very clear. Another part where it's very clear is in third canto. You can take note if you want. Third canto, 16th chapter, text 26. So there he explains how he talks the same thing. He talks about the same thing, about this Jaya and Vijaya. And the Lord says, O Brahmanas, know that the punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me. So clearly, the Kumaras were only instrumental in something that the Lord wanted to do. It was not the origin of this descent. And therefore, they will fall to a birth in a demoniac family, but they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly, because obviously the time, the spiritual world is different than the time, the material world. So from the spiritual point of view, even lifetimes and all Hiranyakashipu and so on, it's all short. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport at the end, he explains the devotee should come into an atheistic family, surprising, but it's simply a show. After finishing their mock fighting, both the devotee and the Lord are again associated in the spiritual planets. This is very explicitly explained here. The conclusion is that no one falls from the spiritual world or Vaikuntha planet, for it is the eternal abode. But sometimes, as the Lord desires, the devotee come into this material world as preachers or as atheists. So, this is my understanding after reading occasionally with the books for 43 years. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. The conclusion is that no one falls from the spiritual world. And in fact, if you study the old Bhagavatam 12th canto, you don't see even one instance of anybody falling from the spiritual world. There's no such description. The only description is Jayam Vidyaya, but again and again the Bhagavatam explains it's a Leela, there's a purpose, it's a show. The Acharya explained the same, the Bhagavatam explained the same. Yudhishthira Maharaj, by hearing, said, whoa, it's unbelievable, how is it possible? So this is our philosophy, although may not be the most, what you call, popularly accepted philosophy or the easiest to digest, but this is our philosophy.
I have a question in this regard. Like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, Dantavakra, Shishupala, they are one category. And then there are the Duryodhana and the Vena and the Jayadratha and the Jayasandha and
Jarasandha.
Jarasandha is some demigod also.
No, he's a demon.
Yeah, he's not like. So there is this other category of demons, right? So both of them behave in a similar way.
Meaning?
Like, by the way, I'm working on a project, okay? It's about narcissism, like narcissism in Srimad Bhagavatam and characters like that. Now, both these characters behave narcissistic, meaning grandiosity, me, mine, a sense of deep insecurity, but then covering it or like compensating that with externally going and conquering people and things like that. So how do I differentiate or like conclude, especially like say Hare Krishna devotees, there are abusive husbands, there are abusive leaders, there are people who maybe wear, in Mayapur, there were stories that came out about somebody who may be looking like a sannyasi, but then they were not, and they were abusing children or something. Their husbands who beat their wives, etc. So those are all typical kind of narcissistic tendencies. But they're also devotees that chant Hare Krishna and read Srimad Bhagavatam. How do I categorize these kind of devotees? Do they come under Ravana and Kumbhakarna, or do they come under Vena and Jayadratha?
They don't come on neither. We are talking about three different categories. Okay. One is the eternal associates of the Lord, like Jaya Vijaya, who come with a particular purpose, full stop.
Right, okay.
Now, the mood they manifest, of course, is demoniac, because that's the role they play. It's just like if a devotee plays Kamsa and Janmashtami, he will not play a devotional Kamsa, chanting Hare Krishna, oh Krishna, I love you. He will play a devotee, maybe he will play Kamsa or hating Krishna, obviously, because that's what the role is, okay? Or somebody plays Hiranyakashipu. We have seen all this drama, no, Hiranyakashipu, like that, because that's a play. Okay, that's one category. Then there are the demons. These are asuras. These are souls because due to association with the lower modes, they develop the demoniac tendencies, and so they are enemies of the Lord. And sometimes they are enemies of the Lord throughout different lives. You mentioned Jarasandha. Jarasandha was Viprachiti, one very leading asura. Kamsa was Kalanemi, another leading asura described in the 8th canto. So then they come on this planet trying to conquer the planet. They do conquer the planet, but then they get wiped out by Krishna. So that's another category. There are asuras, but
Asura.
but they're not ontologically asura. They are souls. They are souls.
They're souls, but they play asura for until they get purified or
Not
something.
they play. They are asura.
They are asura,
They're souls covered by tamas gunas, and they are inimical to Krishna. And they will be purified in different ways, or they'll take a long time, whatever. And then there are devotees.
Sorry. So under that category of asuras, there are also two categories, right? Those who are inimical and those who don't even care about Krishna.
Well, yeah, of course, there are many types of asuras. Asuras, see, sura is the same root of the word surya, means sura means enlightened, and asura means obfuscated or unenlightened. That's the meaning of asura. Even Srila Prabhupada even talks about asura varnasha, means a varnasha which is based on caste system. It's not illuminated varnasha.
Wow.
It's asura. It's just based on the body of privilege and so on.
Okay.
So
And then
the third are devotees
Hmm.
who are in different modes. The third canto, Kapila Deva explains there are different ways of practicing devotional service. There's this mixture, right? 9 devotional service, practice in the 3 modes, 3 into 3 becomes 9, 9 into 9, 81. And there, Kapila Deva explained there are some devotional service which is full of envy, full of violence. It's devotional service in the mode of Tamaguna. So these are devotees, but they are devotees in the Tamaguna or Rajaguna. And I include myself.
So they're not categorized as asura. They're categorized as devotees.
They are devotees
Lord of Tamaguna.
with nartas, with baggage, demoniac baggage. Like a devotee who is a devotee, is initiated, chants 16 rounds, but then he goes home and he bit the wife. That's demoniac. Demoniac. That's violence. So, but it's a devotee. He's a devotee in the mode of ignorance. He practices devotional service, which is very dark. His mind is into darkness. Or devotees, you see them gossiping all the time, criticizing, doing nothing positive, just criticizing. There was a devotee, actually, he was my friend at one point. His name was Hanuman from Croatia. He was a smart devotee. I've been to his house, and at one point, I don't know what happened. I wasn't in touch with him. His life mission became criticizing everybody. He started a website. Every single thing negative happened in ISKCON. He will broadcast sarcastically, like some devotee had the problem in South Africa, a big article with the photo of a young woman doing yoga, which was not the real woman, but just to criticize. He was just criticize. And then he died of COVID. And in one sense, I felt it was good for him because, it was really like every day of his life, that was his mission, just put poison on the devotees of the Lord.
So that's kind of like devotional service in the mode of ignorance?
Very much. Mixed with some demoniac tendency. Demoniac, what does it mean, demoniac? Demoniac means things which are not favorable to devotional service, non-devotional attitudes. So, like that. So, yeah, but there are devotees who somehow they still have a lot of, we still have a lot of baggage.
So those people who are not devotees, but they have these tendencies, they are what? Human beings in the mode of asuric ignorance.
But depends, because like, for instance, I just was going through today. Look, I just read for you a verse.
Snehavati Gandharvika, this can be good introduction for the project.
Now, I just was going through today itself, and this is a conversation in Philadelphia, July 75. And this is with Professor Hopkins. Some of you may remember he was one of the first academics who gave attention to, now he just died recently, but he was one of the first academics who gave attention to the Hare Krishna movement. You can see even him in the Hare Krishna movie, because he came to this 22nd Avenue to look at these people. Who are these people, you know? Anyway, it's a very, very, very nice person. So, Srila Prabhupada says, you will find among Smarta Brahmanas, there are also some of them Vaishnavas, but they are impersonalists. Professor Hopkins, you will say that those Martas say, I don't know, and I don't know, Smarta Brahmanas were worshippers of Vishnu. You would say that they're still impersonalists in some ultimate sense. Prabhupada, no, it's very difficult to pick them out. Most of the so-called Vaishnavas, they're impersonalists. So Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas, they're very, because sometimes there are many who are Vaishnavas, they worship Shalgram Shila and they worship the deity, but ultimately they're impersonalists. So it's hard to categorize everybody. We should be careful, of course, if it's not our service, but we should get into this.
Because see,
Like for instance, the people who tried to kill Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was against the Smarta Brahmanas, Jati Goshais. He said, look, you cannot charge for showing the deities. You don't have a monopoly on devotional service. Everybody can be a Brahmana. And they hated him. And they hate him, they tried to kill him. But these are people in Navadvip. These are people who worship the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Radha Krishna. All day. They're probably vegetarian and everything. So, but they try to kill the pure devotee. So some are, those three categories I said, there are kind of three basic categories, but then there are so many subdivisions. Yeah.
Like for example, there are these 12-step groups where people are very God conscious. They believe in God, they believe him as a person, and they're very, but they don't know Krishna consciousness. Okay. They're not devotees. But they are
devotees. They are devotees, but they're not Hare Krishna devotees. And why they're not devotees?
Okay.
They're devotees of God in a general sense, but they're devotees.
Okay, that's another take. Yeah.
See, devotee means somebody who has devotion to Krishna. Anyway, there was some chat. We didn't need to.
No, it's just a confirmation. Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
Say? No, nothing.
Oh yeah, actually, she has a question. Sorry, it's I only am seeing now. Snehavati had a question. On a practical level, if we face some reversal, we try to mitigate it as we are not very advanced. So how to know when we should try to mitigate and when we should just tolerate?
Well, every case.
Sorry, I missed that.
Every case is different. I mean, obviously, in a normal circumstances, you have a disease, you take medicine, you go to a doctor. We are not trying to say, oh, this is my karma, I should suffer. No, you got COVID, you go and get the COVID medicines and so on, any medicines. So, in general situation, yeah, there is some reversal. You try to, if it disturbs your devotional service, you try to overcome the problem, obviously. Now, certain things you understand. Okay, so I'm saying like you have noisy neighbors, you try to tell him once, twice, you call the police, nothing happens. Okay, then you just tolerate, just put earplugs or something. So there are certain things that, yeah, sometimes it's just too much. We want to become absorbed too much in your neighbor's noise. So sometimes you just tolerate. You put your music in your ears and finish. Also, sometimes there are certain diseases that are incurable. Like Srila Prabhupada, there was a little girl who had a terminal disease in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada just said, yeah, okay, stay in Vrindavan and die. No, don't try this and that and the other thing. So how? Every case is different. Every case is different. Use your common sense, or ask the senior devotees. I have this disease. Should I work to overcome it or not? By the way, to have a little darker skin is not a disease. No, that's not, doesn't need to be, addressed, or, fair and lovely creams and other things. So you got to define what's a reverse or what's a real disease. Okay, so we have what, 6 minutes left?
Yeah, maybe we can ask any comments or questions and we
Sure,
can continue
yeah.
tomorrow. I like these points very much.
Otherwise, we can read another verse. I don't know. To finish with the verse.
Can I
Next
ask a
verse.
question? Can I
Yeah.
ask a question?
Please go ahead.
It's again about this falling of the jivas, and maybe I overheard. I just would like to specify for myself to clarify. Does it refer to all jivas, including us, conditioned soul, that we do not fall from the spiritual world either, or is it only to, or it refers only to eternal servants, eternal associates of the Lord? And because it's written in the Shastras that a conditioned soul falls from the spiritual world, do we also fall or we don't fall? We just
Shastra.
come here by our will. How does it
but
happen?
Make a statement that in the Shastra says that the soul from the spiritual world. Which Shastra?
In Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes in purport that conditioned souls, that we fell from the material or from the spiritual world, didn't we?
Maybe there is no time today. Why don't you bring the quote? Bring the quote. First of all, see, Shastra means scripture. You're bringing a purport, so it's a little different category. But yeah, if you have the purport, if you remember the number, maybe now there is no time to get into it, but maybe tomorrow we can discuss, because this is the topic now. Yudhishthira is amazed that souls in the spiritual world can fall down. And I don't know of any Shastra that says that.
But there are also different definitions of when the condition, there's the Nitya Siddhas and the Nitya Baddhas, right? There are many categories when you're speaking about it. And also, what does it mean? We all came from Krishna, we came from Mahavishnu's body, we were all there at the time of, we were there. So what does it mean? All these definitions are also important to clarify. What does it mean? Conditioned soul, we fell from our position, the consciousness. We could be human, we could be demigod in one lifetime, next lifetime we could be a dog. So there are so many things. And then also there's another description about Gokula, right? The spiritual, what does it mean, spiritual world? That's another definition. Yeah. No, I'm just saying that this topic is very vast. Everything needs to be taken with definition and understood properly so we can answer to people who ask us.
You see, but just go to because you mentioned Srila Prabhupada.
Nehavati Gandharvika says, I also would like to hear more about the Jiva fault.
We'll discuss.
Tomorrow maybe.
We'll discuss, but just to close, since we have a couple of minutes, if you go to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 16, Krishna says, there are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So, and at the end of the purport, it says that any living entity was come in contact with matter, beginning from the first created being Brahma down to the small hand, is changing his body. Therefore, they are all fallible. In the spiritual world, however, they are always liberated in oneness. So, I don't know of any Shastra. I don't know of any Shastra that says that the souls come from the spiritual world. But please bring that quote and we'll discuss it.
Mahavishnu is not spiritual world.
Mahavishnu,
the body of Mahavishnu is spiritual world. So in one sense, we do come from.
Well, we can discuss that, but that's not how we ended up in Mahavishnu.
I'm just saying that the definitions are very important.
Definitions are important. I'm just making the point that today we read from Srila Prabhupada, no one falls from the spiritual world. He says in the 7th canto, he says in the 3rd canto. And I'm sorry if I put some energy, it may be a little bit, what do you call it, confrontational energy, but frankly speaking, I'm tired because it's like decades I hear about this controversies, and there's nothing in the Bhagavatam saying that we fall from the spiritual world.
Regardless, we need to go back to the spiritual world either way, whether we fall or not.
Back or
this
front,
is not our home.
back or front,
That's our home.
back or front, whatever.
I mean,
But
that's
please,
another, sorry.
Please share that quote, so we'll discuss more
I mean,
tomorrow.
this is another thing, right? We hear often going back to Godhead. You usually go back from where you came from, right? So that's another idea to say, hey, I am from the spiritual world. I fell down and I need to go back. So that's another discussion. Why back to Godhead? Why back to Godhead magazine?
We can discuss that.
Okay.
Okay?
I mean, these are important questions, so we can answer properly when people ask. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
You want a picture?
Yeah.
When you go to the bathroom, you start putting you stop.